Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We have a first-time guest joining us on this platform. He was in our interview at the Sprott Natural Resources Symposium this summer, which was a virtual symposium because we couldn't do it in Vancouver. This is RKing. He's the VP of Corporate Development and Investor Relations at Calibre Mining Corp. He joins us this Wednesday, November 25th, 2020. Ryan, thanks for joining us here on Liberty and Finance.
Yeah, I appreciate being here. I look forward to the discussion.
One of the reasons we wanted to have you on for sure was because of your direct involvement in the precious metals industry. A lot of our viewers are interested in mitigating risks that they perceive and that we share with them to be present in the fiat banking system with runaway creation of currency across many different countries around the world from central banks, also central banks intervening in apparently every market and so people having really a difficult time discerning what's organic and what's synthetic in the actions of the markets. We see a big disconnect happening between the major stock indices and the real world economy on the ground. People seek out safe harbors sometimes to reduce risk in times of uncertainty. We've got a lot of uncertainty right now, but we wanted to talk to you because you not only are at an influential leadership role within a company in the financial space, and ironically, mining is actually, like taking gold out of the bank. It's like the bank's in the ground and you're a financial company in that regards, but you have a lot of eyes to the scene within which your company is involved. So can you tell us what the biggest themes are that have your eye in this fourth quarter of 2020 of the global economic and financial environment that we're operating within and what you're watching right now?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. Lots of details there and lots to ponder and think about. But I think if we look back in history, in time, and we see the evolution of cycles and what's happened over the decades, it's clear to me that the gold trade is here for a period of time and then it comes off, and it is largely driven by what's happening by our central banks, is what we're seeing. And what we're seeing is huge amounts of stimulus, more money, more fiat currencies being printed. In the case of 2008 during the great financial crisis, the stocks came all the way down. There was huge amounts of money printed and pushed into the system, and we saw gold rise significantly through that period of time. Call it 2008 through to 2011, and we saw highs during then of I think it was $1,900 an ounce or right around there. You look forward to today, or yes, from that time to 2018, 19, 20, where we are now, and we've seen mass amounts of stimulus. So debasing of currencies, not only in the United States, but globally. And I think it was Japan that basically said they have unlimited stimulus. They'll keep printing money to fuel the economy. And to your point, exactly, that is why people will look at precious metals, or even what I'm hearing more and more of is digital currencies. But on a precious metals basis, yeah, a store of value, gold, silver. And part of the reason Calibre Mining is a business, we operate as a business, and we're doing everything we can to mitigate costs to bring gold out of the ground. We don't store gold, we sell our gold to fund our business and fund additional exploration and growth. But yeah, all to your point, we're in a period of time where very volatile, lots of government interaction whereby they're printing more money all around the world. Therefore, gold, if we look at history, gold has historically responded positively. And also in the case of the US dollar, a lot of different banks and pundits are thinking the US dollar could go lower, and therefore the gold has always been inversely related to US. It hasn't always been, but generally been inversely related, and so therefore showing a picture of that potentially gold could go higher. Of course, we don't have crystal balls, but looking at history and some of these cycles, now is the time where you'd probably want to look at gold as a potential if you're thinking that this could happen.
Yeah, we spoke with Pamela and Marianne Aiden from the Aiden Forecast. They've been doing this longer than most of us. They've been at it 40 years. And as they look at cycles, they look at short-term cycles, major cycles, and then what they call mega cycles. And they said that the dollar is in a mega cycle decline and gold is in a mega cycle bull market. They think that it could be 5 years, 10 years, they don't know, but they say the elements, the fundamentals are in place
Mhm.
through, as in one of the biggest factors, as you're describing, is this runaway fiat currency creation.
And you can see it, right? You can see, and I mean, and I can, going to the grocery store, you're starting to see it coming into our daily lives. Things are getting more expensive. You're starting to see this inflation creep into our daily lives, and therefore, looking out at 2021, you know, again, where you'd want to own some gold or gold equities is in an environment like this, where all of a sudden that debasement of those currencies, now it's costing you a lot more of those dollars to buy a hard product, a physical product. So, and hence the reason for wanting to own some gold or real estate or hard assets, commodities, because those are going to be stores of value.
So in the face of that environment, your company, Calibre Mining Corp, has brought a strategy towards that. I was looking at some of the resources you have available on your corporate website, and you outlined there some of those key elements of the corporate strategy that really show that you've got a concerted way of approaching this environment. So could you just hit the high points of what the main elements are of the strategy that are relevant for people to be aware of?
Yeah, of course. Good question. And, maybe I'll take it back to the last company that our group put together was called New Market Gold. And, anytime you get involved in the gold sector, the gold business as a gold producer, you're always depleting future revenues, future production, right? So if you keep that in the back of your mind as an investor, if a company doesn't reinvest in their assets or on growth or on M&A, there's going to be a point in time where they run out of a product to sell, right? It's just the way it is. And so our last company, New Market Gold, we saw an opportunity where we could acquire gold production, but we saw very good geological upside. So we heavily invested in drilling and exploration for that one particular entity. We ended up discovering one of the highest grade underground gold mines in the world, and therefore did a transaction with Kirkland Lake. We sought out partners to create a better, stronger, more robust, diversified financial product. We were able to do that with merging with Kirkland Lake back in 2017. Fast forward to 2018, when Calibre was just an exploration company, we decided again to pivot from an exploration company and say, look, maybe there's an opportunity where we can get back into the game as a gold producer. And maybe there's an opportunity where there's underutilized mill, geological upside, some optimization to be done, and then grow a business from there. And we were successful in doing that. In 2018, we restructured the company. And in 2019, and at the time, we sought out bankers, brokers, various groups within the mining sector, precious metals sector, and said, we'd like to get into gold productions. We'd like to buy a mine, mill, an opportunity where we can get into production without having the long drawn out, hopeful discovery, delineation of resources, through all of the different studies, and then 10 years later get into production. We went out and bought an asset, and we partnered with B2 Gold, and we bought gold production in Central America. And so now it's just 120% focused on those assets to unlock more value. It's again taking the same approach that we did in 2016 with New Market Gold. We saw good geological upside. We are investing in the assets, and we're so far been quite successful. Not only has the gold price gone in our favor, which obviously has helped a lot of companies, but we have fundamentally changed the way we operate some of our assets, and we've heavily invested in drilling to find new resources. I mean, that's a critical thing in our business, is whether you're an early stage exploration company or you're a gold producer. If you find new, it's going to have a dramatic and very significant impact, not only on your share price, but on potential production down the road. And that's what we do as mining companies and exploration companies.
I meant to ask you this about the gold market in general, the precious metals market, and what your view of that is going forward, because everything you've described is within the context of, you talked about depleting the resources that sell that product, and selling that product into a market where you can expect a certain return on that. Joey Santoro, one of our subscribers, has a question. Says, looking beyond the devastating effects of the euphoria over vaccines has had on the precious metals prices, just for the last week or two here, what is your outlook over the next 6 to 12 months?
For gold in general, for the where the
Yes.
price could go or could not go. And yeah, and this is my view. And back, if you go back to Q4 of 2019 or Q1 of 2020, there wasn't as much discussion around the virus and a pandemic, of course. And so when the pandemic hit and started to have devastating impacts on the economy, on our livelihoods as humans, that I believe exasperated and quickly extended the price of gold's price up above where maybe it would have been without the pandemic. So we had a huge run up, and again, slowdown of the economy, people not being able to work, kids not being able to go to school, government stimulus pushing hard is going to have a positive impact on the price of gold. That being said, the fundamental macro landscape was in place for gold going higher back in Q1, back in Q4 of last year. The economy was slowing down, jobs were not being created, capital or currencies were being debased already. So the fundamentals were already there and going there. We just got here at this gold price quicker. So now we've got this headline risk. The way the market works now is algorithmic trading, machine trading. It's basically everything is happening much quicker than would have happened, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's just happening so fast. And what happens is companies will trade on headlines. Machine trading will trade when some piece of news comes out that's a headline. For example, a vaccine is found for the coronavirus. We have no idea how long that's going to take to actually get to mass production. We have no idea what additional devastations could be with one or two vaccines maybe not working the way they thought. But put that aside for a second. Yes, we're seeing these headline risks having negative impacts on the price of gold. But the fundamental landscape is still there because of the printing that's happened within these banks. The debasement of currency is happening as we speak, and therefore, longer term, the inflation is going to hit pretty significantly, like it has in many countries around the world. And I believe the store of value will be in some of these precious metals, for example, one area of a store of value. So, looking out to 2021, there's probably going to be more headline risks. You're actually probably also going to see a spurt on economy. As people come out of a lockdown, for example, if this in fact does happen, you're going to see people going to restaurants, spending money, traveling, going around the world, doing all of these types of things. So a spurt on economy is probably not as good as we think for gold, but eventually this inflation is going to start hitting, and it's going to be positive for gold, not so much for our bank balances and checkbooks.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are hurting financially individually, and it's just like in suspended animation to some extent how much till that actually catches up with. We've had people with rent forbearance where they haven't been able to pay their rent. We've had people be able to file extensions, be behind on paying taxes or paying student debt loans and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of shoes that are yet to drop in 2021. So that's some of what's driving some of the uncertainty that you talked about.
And I'm sure we're going to see more stimulus in 2021. Not just here in North America, but probably globally.
And when we call that stimulus, one of the main mechanisms that's used for that is lowering interest rates and increasing fiat currency supply, all of which tends to debase the currency, and that's where people seek for stores of value. We have a question from viewer Rainier Kromarek who says, Ryan, it's nice to meet you here. Congratulations on your success in the last 12 months. You share Nicaragua with Mako Mining. What's your relationship to them?
Other than that, we're both operating in the same country, we don't have a relationship. They're a completely separate public company. They have separate suite of assets. But I think what it does speak to is the country as a whole. It's a very underexplored region, very, very rich from what we've seen in what's called low sulfidation epithermal vein systems that a lot of times outcrop at surface. Good infrastructure in the country. So, we don't have any relationship other than that operating in Central America, Nicaragua.
Rainier goes on to ask, where will Calibre Mining be in 12 to 24 months from now? So what are the main initiatives that you see in the next year to two?
Yeah, so when we started out the company and we restructured from an exploration company and acquired gold production, our view and goal was that patiently optimize the operations that we acquired to begin with, systematically deploy multi-pronged exploration approaches, for example, drilling, earlier stage generative exploration, regional exploration, um, and looking at all the opportunities where we could potentially lower our costs. And so we've been doing that systematically over the last 12 months. But at the same time, when we started the company, the view was that we would be a multi-asset gold producer, diversified, robust, backed by gold. I think it's fair to say that, phase one, we've executed. We've transitioned from an exploration company to a gold producer. Over the last 12 months, we've not only been fortunate with the gold price, therefore giving us additional capital to reinvest in the business, but we've got a very strong operating team, ex-Newmont team that has been known to optimize different operations when they were at Newmont, and therefore applying that knowledge and expertise and experience to our suite of assets. And we've been fortunate enough that we've been able to unlock some value that way for our shareholders as well. And we see future opportunities to do more of that. But really also at the same time, as we reinvest in our business, looking for new opportunities in terms of satellite deposits or expanding resources that we currently have, we'll also start to look at the larger landscape as well. Maybe there's an opportunity where one company plus another could equal 3 or 4, and diversify our portfolio and create a better product.
The reason that we met you, of course, in the beginning was because you were handpicked by Rick Rule and Sprott Asset Management to be one of the exhibitors and speakers at the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium. And one of the things that we didn't get a chance to do but would like to know now is, what was the core of the message that you delivered at the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium for those who weren't able to make it? And if Sprott were to have like a refresher today, what would you tell the people today that you weren't able to tell them because now you've seen further down the road than you did there? So could you hit that for those people who weren't able to attend Sprott?
Yeah, I could. So Calibre, I guess, I'll focus on Calibre versus the gold price. I mean, it's we can't tell what the price of gold is going to do. Are the systems or macro landscape kind of shaping us where we think that gold price will go higher? Likely, yes. But in terms of our business, so again, we transitioned from an exploration company that had been in Nicaragua for 10 years, exploring up in the northern part of the country. We outlined 2.4 million ounces of inferred resources up there, and over the last 10 years had brought in different partners as call it a prospect generator. 2019, we acquired the 2 Limon and Libertad mills. And one of those mills, actually one of those operations, Libertad, when we acquired it, had a very low, if not zero, net asset value in our due diligence. But we thought, no, there's got to be more opportunities here. There's got to be a better way, or maybe there's a way we can optimize it and not put it into closure. And yet the other operation was running really well, 50 to 70,000 ounces a year, around $1,000 all-in sustaining costs. One of the things that we did was, because there was various pods or deposits of resources within up to 250 kilometers away from this one mill, we decided to deploy a new operating strategy, which we call a hub and spoke strategy. And therefore what that is think of your mills. We've got one small mill and one large mill as hubs. And we've got all of these different deposits that sit within 200 to even 300 kilometers away from some of those hubs, but on good infrastructure. So we started to review the opportunity of what would it be to mine there and haul it or transport it down to one of our hubs, instead of outlaying a whole bunch of new capital for another mill. And by doing that, we've been able to unlock a lot of value, because today we truck ore 250 kilometers. Next year we'll be trucking ore that distance and 300 kilometers. And based on our most recent multi-year outlook, we should be producing about 170 to 190,000 ounces, versus when we initially got it, it was looking like, okay, if it was heading to closure, we'd be a 60,000 ounce a year gold producer with a reclamation and closure liability at the other. So we, in the way we operate has substantially changed. At the same time, we've been doing, I think we've had 14 or 15 drill rigs operating at various different deposits around the country, and looking to see if we can expand resources, in some cases convert lower category resources to reserves. And so we've been really investing in the business through 2020 to help put, let's call it, track in front of the train down the road so that we have a sustainable long-term business. So lots has been going on.
You mentioned all this activity that's been going on in 2020. 2020 has been a tough year for anybody trying to do any activity, whether it's traveling, whether it's working side by side with people, so many things, even making sure that your supply chains are going to get you the fuel and the parts and everything that you need. How have you been able to navigate and to operate in this specifically challenging environment?
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, you bang on. It's been incredibly challenging. Most of our executive team have not been in country since February of this year. We've been doing everything remotely, like you and I are doing now, virtually with our teams that has decades of experience operating these assets. Previously with B2 Gold. So, these assets have been in production for a long time, and B2 had been operating these for 10 years. So we kept majority of the people and contractors in place. So we had a good base, a foundation to work off of. And B2 Gold did an incredible job with these assets over the last 10 years with their social programs, with how they operated, with how they interacted. So they did a very good job. So we had an incredible foundation to work off. That being said, during the second quarter of this year, we actually temporarily suspended operations. Right when the pandemic really hit in the first wave, air travel was slowed significantly to the country, as did to most of the kind of countries around the world. We fortunately stocked up on all of the reagents and consumables that we needed for the operation. But again, we suspended operations on account of health and safety for not only our employees and contractors, but our communities that live right within where the mines operate. And so for all of the second quarter, we were suspended. And, cash was going out the door, but no revenue was coming in. We elected to pay, I think it was 80% of the contractor fees and salaries through that whole period of time. So we wanted to make sure that we're working hard to keep the livelihoods of all of our employees strong and stable. We took ourselves a 25% reduction in all of our salaries. But yeah, no, it's been incredibly challenging times. And because we did that, because we took that period of a suspension, and it was self-imposed, it was not a government regulated suspension. We self-imposed that. It really helped change the mindset of social distancing within the communities, within our employees. We changed procedures and protocols significantly about, entering and leaving mine gates and how operations were done. So again, because we have such a strong, experienced workforce, we were able to get through it. And actually, I think from a lot of the analysts that cover Calibre, we were able to perform better than expected as we restarted the operations in the third quarter, produced over 45,000 ounces in Q3 alone, better than most expectations. So we were fortunate to have, again, such a strong team in country.
One of the things you mentioned was that even though you've started producing gold now, you're taking a lot of the proceeds from that. You're not storing that gold, you're selling it and reinvesting those proceeds in the company. If you could tell us why that strategy is important to Calibre and what you think is going to bring the success from that.
Yeah, well, I mean, to answer that question, so far this year, we reinvest for drilling and exploration work. So we originally went out and planned to do about a 40,000 meter drill program at the beginning of 2020. We've expanded that to 80,000 meters of drilling, some infill drilling. So infill being where there is a resource, but sparsely drilled resource. We infill drill that to get better levels of understanding and confidence in being able to mine that. We've had some incredible drill results so far year to date. Just to name a few, at one of our underground mines, we hit 150 grams over 5 meters. 50 grams over 6 meters right beside it. So we've had some very good results where we have resources and underground mines. And then at the same time, we've discovered a few new areas as well where we've had good drill results. One of them being an area called Amalia, which is close to the Libertad mill. And I think we drilled 17.8 grams over 8 meters. So still starting to do some understanding of what that looks like. But yeah, so far, some of the drill results have been pretty exciting. And anytime you have exciting drill results, it means the potential to find not only new resources, but potentially economic resources that could be mined. So it's really important when a company does reinvest into their assets to expand resources, make new discoveries, that investors look really closely as what this could mean. Could it be much bigger? Is it a small little deposit? Is it uneconomic at current gold prices? All of these things. So, those are important factors. But a lot of times for companies, especially for micro cap exploration companies, if they find something like what I've just described, they would have a pretty significant share price appreciation, I would assume.
It's been interesting as you describe this. You've also mentioned, I guess, the eye for value or frugality that the company has taken to try to find ways of achieving results while necessarily trying to minimize the outlay of new capital investments or new infrastructure build. You're trying to find things that are convertible into a profitable process area that are just kind of like a diamond in the rough. So that's an interesting strategic way to conserve those resources that you're talking about, so you can maximize them for the discovery portion.
When I look at mining companies, I mean, you've got the public company, the stock, and how that trades, and what happens with what is the real business behind it, right? The operations, and so it's all about, costs in and costs out and revenue, right? So, when you look at that, it's just, we've got this whole subset of the business behind myself and the CEO and others that really look at, okay, where do we want to invest? Why do we want to invest? So many layers of science and engineering. And that's hypercritical to the result, which is the financial product of the stock at the end of the day.
Well, anyone, myself included, needs to pay attention when Rick Rule says a company is worthy of closer inspection, because when he's appeared on our channel numerous times over the past several years, and always when he comes on, he offers to rank precious metals and natural resource portfolios of our viewers. And he has some very stringent criteria that he applies. So the fact that he's weighed in and hand-selected Calibre to appear among what he considers the cream of the crop in the natural resource space certainly got our attention. For people who want to find out more about Calibre Mining, where should they go and get plugged in?
Well, I'm always available. I think that's really important for institutional, retail, analyst investors that want to look at or learn more about the company. It's always best to speak to somebody. So my information is available on our website at www.calibremining.com. My email address is rking@calibremining.com. So happy to interact with any potential investors and let them know what's happening with the company.
Well, because everyone will put those links in the description of this video, also so that you can find the full description of this video and all of our videos. Make sure you go to libertyandfinance.com and sign up for the free email list by just entering your email and then confirming it when we send you a confirmation. We've been speaking with RKing, the VP of Corporate Development and Investor Relations at Calibre Mining. Ryan, thank you very much for joining us on Liberty and Finance for this first time.
Excellent to be here. I appreciate it. And as always, feel free to reach out anytime.
To acquire gold and silver, just go to libertyandfinance.com. When the main site comes up, click on Bullion Sales. That's libertyandfinance.com, Bullion Sales. You'll see my name, Dunnigan Kaiser, my phone number, and my associate, Kaiser Johnson, his phone number, our email, libertyandfinance@protonmail.com.